Hari Om. Om Gajananam Bhuta Ganadi Sevitam Kapitha Jambo Phalasara Bhakshitam Umasutam Shoka Vinasha Karanam Namami Vigneshwara Pada Pankajam. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Namaste. Welcome to DISHA 6 of new series, which is an inward journey to discover our inner strength and happiness through Bhagavad Gita. We are in the midst of revising chapter 2, and in this course today, Dr. Kiran will help us revisit verses 39 to 46. This part of Sankhya Yoga deals with Karma Yoga. Dr. Kiran will also cover Karma Yoga topic from Tattva Bodha. This will be followed by story time by Dr. Komal sir and teaching quiz by Dr. Satya. Before Dr. Komal gives us introduction to today's topic, now it's shloka time, and Sri Madhusudan will explain the shloka of the day, Akhanda Mandalakaram. Over to you, Madhu.
Gurubhyo Namaha. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The Guru Gita, Song of the Gurus, is from scriptures that is said to have been authored by the sage, none other than Vyasa himself. The verses of these scriptures are chanted widely. The text is part of the larger Skanda Purana. There are several versions of the Guru Gita, varying from around 100 verses to over 400 verses. Another view is that Guru Gita is part of Vishvasara Tantra. The Guru Stotram, in this case, is a 14-verse excerpt from a sacred text known as Above Guru Gita. The text of the Guru Gita describes a conversation between Lord Shiva himself and Goddess Parvati, in which she asks to teach her about the Guru and the liberation. Shiva answers her by describing the Guru principle, the proper ways of worshipping the Guru, and the methods and benefits of repeating the Guru Gita. The text gives an etymology of word Guru, where the root Gu stands for darkness, while the root Ru stands for light. The term Guru is therefore explained as the remover of the darkness who reveals the light of the heart. The word Guru has many translations thereon. Now going into this verse, Akhanda Mandalakaram, Lord, he whose form is one whole, which is indivisible, present everywhere. Vyaptam Yena Characharam, pervades both living and non-living manifestation. Tatpadam Darshitam, Guru, he who has seen the feet of such a Lord, and he who has experienced oneness with the ultimate. Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Salutations to that glorious Guru who has shown me the reality of the pervasive, unbroken, infinite mandala of movable and immovable beings. And when I was blinded by ignorance, applied the medicine and opened my eyes. To him, this beautiful chant is a prayer to the Guru, the one who takes us from darkness to the light. Hari Om.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Padyantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Today, in this session of DISHA, discovery of inner strength and happiness, we are going to deal with verses 39 to 46 of Gita, chapter 2, and then we'll be discussing about Karma Yoga. This particular portion of chapter 2, Krishna introduces Arjuna to Karma Yoga. So he spoke about Jnana Yoga in the earlier parts from verses 12 to 25. And now he makes a transition and starts teaching about Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga, why after Jnana Yoga? Karma Yoga is actually a stepping stone for Jnana Yoga. So after telling about Jnana Yoga, Krishna gives details about Karma Yoga, the stepping stones into getting into Jnana Yoga, to make Jnana Yoga easier. Here, Sri Krishna glorifies Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? Karma Yoga is a way of life in which we grow internally. We give importance to inner growth rather than external growth, rather than external materialistic growth. In verse 40, Sri Krishna says here that even a little bit of this discipline of Karma Yoga protects you from great fear. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So it does not have any adverse result like medicines, or it does not have any failure like crops. In case there's no rain or something, it can fail. Medicines can have adverse results. But Krishna says, even a little bit of your efforts towards Karma Yoga, towards this path of spiritual practice, will take you proportionately to a higher level, towards Jnana Yoga. Further, he says, there is actually only one clear path, clear understanding in this field. But there are various different ways in which people have interpreted, and they getting enamored by these ritualistic aspects of Vedic statements. They will actually speak very good, very nice, with a flowery speech. They may induce you to get enamored by the materialistic aspect of Vedic statements. We need to be aware of that, and we need to get into the right path and not get into getting sidetracked into away from the actual, the only goal towards moksha. And then in the further verses, Krishna says the glorification of moksha, our ultimate purushartha, we should always remember, is only one, that is moksha. Okay? Dharma, artha, kama are the means which we should incorporate to get into this only goal of our life. And for such a person, for one who has known the self eventually, all the Vedas are of as much use as is a reservoir of water in a place where there is a flood. What is the use of a pond when there is flood? When there is rain and flood, water everywhere, why do you need to go up to the pond? I will give an example. Suppose you are doing a night journey, overnight bus journey, and it's dark everywhere when you started, no lights, only few street lights here and there, and the headlight of your bus or car which you are traveling, those are the leading lights in the darkness everywhere. So they become very important during the night journey. And you gradually, in the discomfort, you get into sleep, and you're anxious and you're dependent on these headlights and few lamps on the street. But as the sun dawns early morning, you realize there's light everywhere. And those tiny small lights on the street lamps, as well as the headlight of the bus, looks so silly and redundant. It looks ridiculous to have those lights. Similarly, when you get into that knowledge, moksha, the ultimate purushartha, when there's a clear understanding of the happenings around you, in the light of knowledge, then these leading lights, which were very much essential when you were in darkness, looks redundant. Similarly, everything including the scriptures, the ritualistic portions of Vedas, Sri Krishna says, looks as ridiculous, as useless, as a reservoir or as a pond when there is flood everywhere. Next, we will today deal with the topic of Karma Yoga. What is Karma Yoga? So that is Tattva Bodha topic for today. The basics. To put it simply, Karma Yoga is proper action and proper attitude. Being stuck within this human body, we have no other goal other than to act. We are designed to do some action. Karma. Whatever you do is a karma. And this, for the spiritual upliftment purposes, we can divide all our activities into three. Uttama karma, madhyama karma, adhama karma. Like if you are inside a car and the car is switched on, the engine is switched on, there's no other go. The car has to be in one of the gears, or in the neutral gear, or in the reverse gear. Similarly, any action you do in life can be divided into these three. The objective of Karma Yoga is to enhance and increase Uttama Karma, the best actions, forward actions, and to limit to as little as possible Madhyama Karma, neutral activities, that's like neutral gear. Those are the selfish activities. And to avoid the reverse gear, that is Adhama Karma, which are Nishiddha Karmani, which you should not be doing, which will take you to spiritual downfall. These are the actions which will benefit you, which may benefit you, but it will be harming others. And what we should be looking at is that those activities, those karmas in which you may not gain anything out of it on your own, but it will be benefiting the people and the community around you. Like 5 gears which will take you forward, there are 5 types of such activities which are called yajna. What is yajna? Yajna means gratitude plus contribution, remembrance. So they are divided into Deva Yajna, that is remembering the divine who is keeping the harmony of nature around us, of the community around us. So praying, Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu, let everybody be peaceful and happy. That is Deva Yajna. Then Pitru Yajna, remembering the ancestors who have given you this body and this ability, this free will to think and do an inquiry into your own self. Brahma Yajna, remembering and giving our gratitude and thanks to rishis, gurus who have brought this ultimate knowledge up till our generation. Manushya Yajna, this is service to humanity, what we call the social responsibility, corporate social responsibility, charity. Generally, we talk about Manushya Yajna. And what happens here is upliftment of the poor, of the downtrodden, of the needy people around us. So that's Manushya Yajna, offering our gratitude as well as our contribution. And then the 5th one is Bhuta Yajna. It's not just the living beings, the humans, it's also the non-human beings, the animals and plants around us, which the ecology, the climate, the non-living things like the mountains, the rivers, the rains, which are very much essential for a harmonious life. You offer gratitude. Thanks. Thanks for making this possible. And once you thank, there will be clarity. There will be some clearance in your mind, a closure. And in that space, we can do self-inquiry. The purpose, you have to remember, is to cleanse the mind. For what purpose? It's not for anybody else's benefit. Your own purpose is to have a kind of closure or a completion so that we can peacefully go further. It's like washing your hands before you actually eat the food. Karma Yoga is not an end in itself. After washing your hands, you'll have to go have your food. But washing your hands is essential practice so that what you're going to relish later is unhindered and without any trouble. So that's about proper action. And what is proper attitude? There are two aspects again here. One is when you're doing the action, Ishvara Arpana Bhavana, and when you're receiving the fruits of the action, it is Ishvara Prasada Bhavana. One is Ishvara Arpana Bhavana. That is like whatever I am doing is a kind of my offering to the Lord. And while receiving whatever the world gives back as a result of my action, to receive it as a prasada. So that's the second part of Karma Yoga, that is proper attitude. So the details of these verses, as well as an elaboration on Karma Yoga, will be done by Dr. Kiran. Over to Dr. Kiran, please. Thank you.
Namaste. Hari Om. Gurubhyo Namah. Karma is perhaps the most commonly used word in philosophy. Right from Bollywood actors to Hollywood actors, right from Anand Mahendra to Elon Musk, Tagore to Tolstoy, most of them have used this word in some time or the other while referring to something. As a spiritual seeker, what does karma means and what is the role in our spiritual life? We will study it, especially with respect to second chapter, which we are now revising. Karma, the whole thing I call it because it is science of action, because it is. We will study what is karma, who is karmi, what does Karma Yoga mean, the character, the bondage and escape the karma causes, and doership, and what is the fruit of or palam of it. Previously, we studied Krishna is trying to convince Arjuna to fight this war at three levels. One is from the philosophical angle, second is ethical angle, and third is worldly drishti. That is, he says from social or empirical angle. See what people will say. This is perhaps the most convincing point. But Arjuna, even then, is not convinced. So, Lord Krishna decides to explain to him what does karma mean and ask him to consider from karmic angle. This 39th verse is a translational verse, Esate Bihita, where he says, this knowledge imparted to you till now deals with the higher self. Now, listen to this karma angle, and then if you do it properly, it will also help to release you from the bondage. And also he further says, in this field, that is karma or Karma Yoga, there is no failure. Can you believe it? And there is no adverse result. A little bit of this discipline protects one from the great fear of samsara. Neha bikaro manasso. What does this all mean? It looks very unconvincing. Karma Yoga is a way of life. Here, we grow internally more and we give importance to inner growth than external growth. The basic philosophy of Gita is peace of mind does not depend on external things. It depends on what you are. For a Karma Yogi, there is no failure. If you succeed in the materialistic world, it is fine. If it is fails, you have learned a lesson. Thomas Alva Edison attempted more than 100 times. So one of his colleagues asked him, you have failed almost more than 100 times. He says, no, I found out about 100 ways of not making the bulb. So this is how a Karma Yogi will be. The karma simply means action. In this context, we means a deliberate planned action. And yoga means link. Here, it links with a sadhaka with a sadhana. That is a seeker with the goal. And karmi means the one who is acting without any higher goals. basically is a materialistic person and is acting as if, there is no higher goal in life. It can be divided into three. One is ātma. That is, here the negative impact on spirituality is more. Remember, in this, we always think of spiritual growth, not maternal growth or success, material growth or success. The madhyama, that is the intermediary one, where, a spiritual benefit is mediocre, but there's no harm. And uttama karma, where that is maximum spiritual positive influence. So these are the three types of karmas which is commonly we can divide it. So can karma act as a means of liberation? Very surprising. Yes. Lord Krishna says, Vyavasatmaka buddhihi kurunandana bahushaka henastayati. O Arjuna, one should have a clear map, Vyavastatmika buddhihi, and understand what is the goal of life. The persons who do not have this kind of clarity, they will go around beating the bush and ultimately end up nowhere, the Lord says. Let us see what is Vyavasatmaka buddhi. Imagine I'm going to Chennai for some conference or some work. What I do, as soon as I go in, I check in, I see when is the flight schedule, whether it is on time or not. Then maybe we'll be having coffee, tea, or do some shopping. But at the corner of my mind, I always think of the flight when it will leave. In the similar way, when we embark upon this journey called life, we have to think what baggages are we carrying, how much wealth are we carrying, how much anger, greed, everything is there. Ultimately, we need to drop all this and travel light. The Vyavasatmaka buddhi or roadmap of spirituality can be divided into Purushartha, that is prayas or shreyas. Prayas means the finite goals, that is dharma, artha, kama. And whereas shreyas is the infinite one. Initially, we start with what I called karmi. And then later on, as we move to the Karma Yoga, we'll achieve chitta shuddhi. Then again, upasana yoga, where we achieve the quietude of mind. Then we pursue jnana. Remember, knowledge is the only means of attaining the ultimate liberation. I'll come to it why. And when we are adequately prepared for this, the takeoff happens. Now, let us learn all about karma, how it can be a means. Who is the doer? If action is there, somebody has to do it. In 18th chapter, the Lord says, Adhishtanam tata karta karanam, means the body, the doer, various senses, the many kind of efforts, and the divine providence. These are the 5 factors of the action. So scientific it is. That's why I call it science of action. The body, this body-mind complex, and the doer. I'll come to it. Who's the doer? And various sense organs. Why sense organs? I will explain to it. The efforts we put in, and ultimately anything, even a leaf has to move, it moves only with divine providence. We know in the story of Kaivalya Upanishad. Then what induces action? What are the constituents of it? The knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower. These are the 3 factors. I'll give an example. I see a jamun or rasgulla. Oh, I'm attracted to it. Then that is the object. Then the knowledge. This rasgulla is tasty. It will quench my or satisfy my hunger. This is the knowledge I get it. Then I am the knower of these 2 things. And so action is induced and do it. And what is the instrument action? The act itself, the doer, and the instrument, that is karanam. These are the 3 constituents of action. I'll explain in further. We all know the 5 sheaths or the koshas. And 3rd and 4th is manomaya kosha and vijnanamaya kosha. Manomaya kosha is where the mind and memory is there, whereas vijnanamaya kosha is where intellect is located. So this mind and memory is the instrument. So that works as a servant, whereas the intellect is the real doer or the employment. This is where the ego or I is located, and this is from where all the origin of karma occurs. So in short, the Vijnanamaya knows the Rasgulla, whether it is good, whether we can eat or not. So ultimately, how we sharpen our intellect, that is where it determines. Next, Manomaya or the mind, it's always as yes or no, desire, not desire, to do or not to do. That is how the mind acts. And once this is decided to act or to avoid, then the Pranamaya Kosha provides the energy and the faculty, and ultimately the body performs. Here, the body and prana, which we think is most important, is just an instrument of the mind and intellect. So let us understand this with respect to layers, that is the Pura, which is beautifully explained in Kathopanishad. The origin, the innermost area from which this action originates is the misconception called avidya. That is where the mind or the intellect knows this misconception. So from there, all the origin of action comes. Next, once the ego is established, the intellect tries to reinforce whatever is needed to strengthen the buddhi, and mind acts and memory makes the record of it. This is how our intellect strengthens and we become this fat me or this body. So what is this ignorance and what is we will study it. Once there is an ignorance that we are not purna or complete, there is some deficit in us or this mind complex. This incomplete knowledge arises a void within us. We want to complete it. Because of this, there is a desire. And once this desire arises, the action is dead. So I see one fellow who is 6.5 feet. I am just a 5'11" or 5'6". So I want to increase the height. So I will do some exercise and all those things. That is the action, so that I will become like him. Because I think with that, I'll become more complete. If that is not there, okay, I'll do some, more action, business, everything. I'll have one big car to show off. Will that complete? All these things we do, but it doesn't complete us. And so this cycle of action rotates, like how we have seen in that movie where in Lord of the Rings, where that in the marsh, the fellow always is thirsty for the fish. And then even though he had everything, he longed for immortality, and ultimately he dies because he doesn't know how to get it or he cannot manage it. Where this web of karma comes from, this is what Lord Krishna has explained in verse 42 to 44. And what is the cause of this rebirth and cycle? We will conclude. The karmis, here, Lord talks about persons without roadmap. Appi vaschitaha, that means indiscriminate people without clear goal. So they run after materialistic goal. As I told, somebody else says, oh, you have a lot of money, you'll be happy, you go out of it. Then you have a girl, you'll be happy, you go out of it. Then you become physically well, you go out of it. And when they are, tired of all this, they even go to spirituality for satisfying their material wealth, not for some higher goals. So they go to some rituals. They say, okay, you do that, Agnihotra and other things, then you will become happy. Like that, they are so ignorant that they will include God also in their own scheme of life. And such a philosophy of consumerism will bring their downfall. And they will get caught in the cycle of action and ignorance, which is called as samsara. So Lord Krishna says in 3rd chapter, Karma Yōga Krodha Yesha. That means in reply to Arjuna's question that why the man falls in this cycle of web of action as if he is pushed into it. So Lord answers, avidya, kama, karma. These are the 3 things which will push man into action as if like a great churning which keeps on going on until he puts a full stop. So once we understand this and develop a proper action and attitude, then we can go beyond this and use karma itself to get beyond it. As we have noticed, the karma is always essential, because without food, we can't even survive or maintain this body. So why not use this karma to raise above it? So karma can be divided into sattvika, that is where benefits are more, rajasic, where both are equal, and tamasic, which can cause more. But Lord Krishna, while offering remedy, says, Traigunya Vishaseha Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. That means the three gunas are the one which causes the action, and we should raise beyond it ultimately and be established in the real knowledge or satta guna, so that we can get rid of the karma effect. How this is possible? Dvandva titaha. That means a wise man knows pairs of opposite as whole. The night and day are equally important. Let us take this with an example of karma. Imagine a judge. The judge has to give sometimes unfortunate or harsh decisions based on what the crime the accused as per. That doesn't mean that he will get caught into the web. If he has a real knowledge of law and performs according to it, then he will not get any papa or punya. Just because he condemned a murderer for death sentence, he will get papa? No. That is because he is not attached to the results he does. And jnanavashtitaha, that is those persons whose mind is established in the knowledge. That means, for example, the judge, if he knows this knowledge inside out and gives all his judgment in align with the knowledge or the law, he will not incur any papa and punya. Similarly, if we act in our life knowing the God and dharma, the divine providence, what God has brought us to do, and act according to it, then we do not incur any papa or punya. Such an action is called yajna, and then it burns all the effects of karma. So such an action we can call as Karma Yoga, or actions done with acceptance and gratitude. This should be the aim of all seekers. And as we all know, Pancha Mahayajna is one of the ways of doing it. Such a Karma Yoga will get rid of impurities and makes us eligible to seek the goal. So the significance of Karma Yoga is beautifully explained in a third chapter, where 5 factors are given. He says we should have a spiritual as a primary goal, or our aim in any action should be pure. Somebody said, I'm very good, I do 100%. What you're doing, I'm a thief. That is not our aim. Should be pure. And we should have Ishvara Arpana Buddhi. That is, we should offer everything to the lotus feet of the Lord. And Nirasir, that means we should be prepared for all type of situation we can incur, because we know we can do the action, but result is multifactorial, is not dependent. And Nirmama, all our actions should be freedom from mamakara. So we should not have any attachment to mind and other things when we are performing an action. It should be performed 100% the way it should be. And once that is done, Vijata Varaha, that means we'll be, we don't have any stress on us, and we will have that mental poise, mental balance and equanimity. And converting every action into devotion and inner peace, regardless of the external effects or results. One has to learn to accept the consequence as a gift. Then he enjoys whatever he gets. In fact, the result, action itself should be the result. For example, I have interviewed many singers, painters, etc. I asked them, what gives you the most happiness? They always say, the happiness when we are singing is nothing even compared to many awards we get. That is how we should be. And we should always learn that His grace is inward. We should perform as if everything is dependent on us. Once action is done, the result is dependent on the Lord and nothing on us. So, in short, Rajasic action and Tamasic action should be reduced and converted to Sattvic action. From there, we should be anchored in the knowledge and then move towards the Jnānam. This is the real roadmap. So, what causes the desire for bondage? The desire is the cause of bondage. Does action causes bondage? No. River flows and joins the river. In between, it may cause flood. Is river responsible for it? No, because it does not have any doership or I. Then what then causes it? Our desire for phalam. That means I have done this action, so the desire should be like this sankalpa. In future, I should be like this. I should be like that, without taking the God scheme into it. That is the cause for samsara. There is a verse of where Krishna says, Patram Palam Toyam. Even if you offer leaf or even water, that is enough for me. Think it, friends. Even a drop of water we cannot manufacture by ourselves. Ultimately, it belongs to the Lord, and we give it back to the Lord shamelessly. So, once nothing belongs to us, then how can we claim that any result can be the way it should be or the way we want? This is the irony. Once we get out of this scheme of depending on the result or the way it should be, then our mind will become free. So, in this verse, the Lord says, Yavanartha udapane sarvata. For a wise man, the benefit you get from Vedas is like ponds, whereas the actual knowledge is like a flood everywhere. This is a tricky verse we have to understand. The scriptures as it is only a manifest form of the infinite. So it is only a short, whichever best scripture you take, it expresses a part of the infinite. Only a guru, that is, who is anchored in this knowledge, that is Brahmanishta, he can reveal what the infinite is. So that is the aparoksha anubhuti. Once somebody says you, how does the sugar taste? You can describe in so many words, but it will never be equal to how the taste of the sugar which you have tasted. Similarly, this knowledge is also. What the wise man knows, this is a Dakshinamurti shloka, Nana Chitra Gatodara. Just like how, in a whole pot, the light comes shine through. If you imagine this light as Lord, and what comes out through each holes is us or the ego, even though we think that each light is a separate thing, ultimately the origin of all is different, is same. Similarly, even if our body, my mind appear superficially different than yours, ultimately it is all same. So how can my action be different, or how can I be different from you? All we have to do is just turn back and look beyond. We see that everything is one. This is that I know. Instead of that, our mind wanders around like that worm in the Matrix movie in search of, completion. Our mind, as we know, is Jadam, is just an instrument which reflects the Brahman, Atma, or the Lord. So we should keep it as pure as possible so that it can reflect the Lord in all the beauty. Just like how this ballet dancers are in synchrony, our life should also be in synchronity with divine will. Once that moves like that, then there is no samsara in this. Every action liberates us. Just like in a movie Zorba, Basil asks, what do you do? Zorba quips, are you mad? It is my body that does all the work. I just sit and enjoy. So it is the mind, vasanas, which does all the action. We should remember. And once we know this, and if we act just like in line with God, in line with Dharma, then we need not worry about the consequences. We can just sit back and enjoy. And such a Jnani, no action is binding for him. Every action, every being of his is an expression of God. The action, if performed, itself is the palam. And such an action is expression of gratitude to God. And in short, when we say yes and thank you to whatever God throws at you, our life is complete. None of the action causes any bondage. Krita Krutena Bharata. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran, for that wonderful description of Karma Yoga and the relevant verses from chapter 2 of Gita. Thank you very much. It's customary during any programs we have seen that we offer the last event in a program, in any ceremonies, will be vote of thanks. Why do we do this? This particular part of any program, not just this today's program, any program which we attend, any ceremonies, will be to offer gratitude for how the program has happened and how much we have gained out of it. Similarly, Karma Yoga, the intention of Karma Yoga is to offer our thanks to what all aspects in this cosmos which has made our life and our inquiry into our own self possible. Why do we do this? It's like washing our hands before having food. Why do we wash our hands? That's for cleaning our hands. Shuddhi. Similarly, to cleanse our mind, we need to do Karma Yoga. And what is Karma Yoga all about? It's about offering our gratitude and contributing to the cosmos around us. And what does it do once we do that? So we saw these 5 gears, 5 different aspects: Deva Yagna, Pitru Yagna, Brahma Yagna, Manushya Yagna, Bhuta Yagna. Those are the best actions, Uttama Karma. How we have to promote these activities to take us further, higher into spiritual journey, and try to reduce the neutral gear, the Madhyama Karma, which are selfish actions in which not many outside our sphere of influence gets benefited, and to avoid the Nishiddha Karma, that is Adhama Karma, the reverse gear of it. Once we get this kind of clarity about what actions will cleanse our mind, and once we start doing that, the Nishkama Karmani, the Nishkama Karma, in which people are benefited, we get benefited by creating a space within our minds to think about our own self. The whole purpose is that our ultimate goal is moksha. Ultimate goal, the Parama Purushartha, Shreyas, is moksha. Dharma, Artha, Kama are utilized as a means to get there. So that's about the need for Karma Yoga. The proper action we saw. And what's the proper attitude? Like a batsman. He knows his control over the ball is at the moment when it touches his bat. There's a lot of preparation, thinking which goes in which direction to swing the bat. But he knows as soon as the ball leaves his bat, he has no control over it. The way the ball moves further is governed by laws of nature. Those universal laws of nature put together is called Ishvara. So once you leave the ball, once you hit it and leave, and once it is beyond your sphere of control, you have offered it to the universe, to the laws of universe, to take its own course, which is too much for your limited mind to comprehend and calculate. How do you reduce that worry of what will happen to the ball? By offering it to the universe, offering it to the Lord. Ishwara Arpana Bhavana. Arpana Bhavana. So once it is handed over to the universe, to the laws of nature, then gracefully you accept what will happen to the ball because it's no more under your control. The benefit, it will reduce your worry. And then while receiving the effect of that, what happens to the ball, whether it hits 6 or it goes up to the boundary or somebody catches it, again, it depends on the laws of nature. The wind, the rains, the pitch, the fielder who is standing there. Everything depends what will happen eventually to the ball. And the end result is something which is not under your control. You have done the action the right way to the best of your ability, but the result depends on something else other than your own self, limited to your body. And you will wait for the result and accept the result as a prasada, Lord's prasada. That's the proper attitude. Again, once you take it, whether it's for good or bad, then your worry will come down. And what will happen once that worry comes down? Again, you will get into that space, clarity, a clean mind, like a clean slate, for you to think and go further into your self-inquiry. The whole purpose is that, nothing more. Remember, why we wash our hands? It's to eat food. We don't wash our hands to wash our hands, to keep it clean. There's something beyond it. Self-inquiry, getting into Jnana Yoga. That's the next step. Thank you very much. Now further, we'll have a quiz about today's topics by Dr. Satyanarayana. Over to Dr. Satyanarayana, please. Thank you.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Let us understand the Karma Yoga with few questions and answers. Question 1. In simple term, what does Karma Yoga mean? Answer. It is right action with right attitude. Performing right action with Ishvara Arpana Bhava and Ishvara Prasada Buddhi. Karma Yoga is a lifestyle in which we focus on inner growth, and comparatively the outer accomplishments are subservient to the inner growth. Question 2. Ishvara Arpana Bhava and Ishvara Prasada Buddhi put together will lead to fast spiritual growth, which is otherwise called as? Answer. Chitta Shuddhi. Ignorant I is the problem and wise I is the solution, and this understanding is the result of Karma Yoga, which is otherwise called as Chitta Shuddhi. Question 3. Human goals include material accomplishments, that is dharma, artha and kama, and spiritual accomplishment, that is moksha. Which of the following terms describe the goal? Sadhana, sadhaka, sadhyam or siddha? Answer. Sadhyam. Sadhana is the course of discipline that we undertake to accomplish a goal. Sadhaka are those who are desirous and work on to achieve goal. And siddha is once we accomplish the sadhyam, we become siddha. Scriptures want us to become sadhakas, taking to sadhana for accomplishing the sadhyam. Sadhaka to siddha is the journey of life. Question 4. What are the 3 levels of sadhanas or yogas in order? Answer. Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Question 5. What are the 3 categories of actions based on spiritual influence on you? It is Uttama Karma, Madhyama Karma and Adhama Karma. Uttama Karma are those karmas which have maximum positive spiritual influence. Madhyama Karma are those karmas which have got limited or nil spiritual influence. Adhama Karma are those actions which have got a negative spiritual contribution, which means that which will cause spiritual fall or retrogression. Question 6. What are Uttama Karmani or Nishkama Karmani? These are Pancha Mahayagna. Next slide. It is Deva Yagna, remembrance of divine. Pitru Yagna, remembrance of ancestors. Brahma Yagna, remembrance of rishis. Manusha Yagna, remembrance of humanity. And Bhuta Yagna, remembrance of non-human living beings. Question 7. What is the main contrast between Karma Yoga and Karma? A karma will produce a result only when it is completed. But in case of Karma Yoga, whether the action is completed or not, inner growth will take place. This is described by the terms Swalpam Apyasya Dharmasya in verse 2.40. Question 8. A person should know where he is, where he has to be next, what are the intermediary ends, and what are the ultimate end, what is the ultimate end in his spiritual journey. This understanding is called as Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, that is maintaining constant focus on the goal. Material accomplishments are incidental goal and spiritual accomplishment as the ultimate and primary goal of life. This is explained in verse 2.41. Question 9. What is the position of Karma Yoga in spiritual journey? It gives Jnāna Yogyata. Take the path of Karma Yoga, take Jnāna Yogyata, then go to Jñānam and discover the inner freedom. Jnāna Yoga is impossible without Karma Yoga, and Karma Yoga is incomplete without Jnāna Yoga. Question 10. With Vyavasayatmika Buddhi, which of the following is determined to be focused to be on the path to God? Mind, intellect, ego, sense organs. Answer is intellect. Intellect is superior to the mind, and we must cultivate the intellect with proper knowledge and use it to guide the mind in proper focused direction. Those whose intellect is many-branched find their mind running in various directions, unable to tread the path to God. This is described in verse 2.41. Question 11. Those with limited understanding of their ultimate goal of liberation will get attracted to the flowery words of Vedas, glorify Vedic portions that please their senses, perform pompous ritualistic ceremonies, all of the above. Answer is all of the above. And this is described in verse 2.42. Question 12. Which of the following is or are the basic principles of Karma Yoga or Karma Yogi? Nishtraigunya Bhava, Nirdvandvo Bhava, Nitya Sattvasto Bhava, all of the above. Answer is all of the above. Nishtraigunya Bhava is not to get carried away by the pursuit of Artha Kama alone. Nirdvandvo Bhava is maintaining equanimity with the pairs of opposite, and Nitya Sattvasto Bhava maintaining predominant Sattva Guna or Viveka Shakti. This is described in verse 2.45. Next question. Karma Phala Ananda is infinite, true or false? Answer is false. Karma Phala Ananda is finite and Jnana Phala Ananda is infinite. The infinite includes the finite, but the infinite is not included in the finite. And this is explained in verse 2.46. Hari Om.
Thank you, Dr. Satya, for a delightful teaching quiz covering the entire topic of the day. Thank you, Kiran sir, for an interesting talk supported by some beautiful slides. Hope all of you enjoyed the session. We'll come back with DISHA 7 on Monday, 2nd May 2022. Before that, this Friday on 29th April, we will have a recap of Bhakti Yoga. Please log in by 6:45 p.m. on Friday. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.